My name is Daniel, and I have always loved stories. Ever since I was a little boy, I would sit for hours with a book in my hands, escaping to different worlds. I loved the way words could take me to places I had never been and introduce me to people I had never met. But as I grew older, life became difficult, and my dreams of becoming a writer started to fade. After finishing school, I struggled to find a stable job. I took up small writing projects here and there, but they never paid enough to survive. I felt like my dream was slipping away. My friends and family told me to be realistic and find a proper job, but I couldn't let go of my passion for writing. It was hard watching my peers succeed in their careers while I struggled to make ends meet. Sometimes I wondered if I had made the wrong choice. One day, feeling hopeless, I walked into the town library. The scent of old books and the quiet hum of pages turning brought me comfort. I wandered aimlessly until I reached the librarian's desk. There she was, Emily, the kind-hearted librarian who had been working there for years. She had always been a familiar face, and seeing her brought a sense of calm. "Hello, Daniel," she said with a warm smile. "It's been a while since I last saw you here." I nodded and sighed. "Life has been tough, Emily. I don't think I'll ever become a writer." She looked at me with gentle eyes and said, "Come with me. I want to show you something." She led me to a corner of the library filled with books written by famous authors who once struggled like me. Emily told me stories of how they faced rejection but never gave up. Every great writer had moments of doubt, she said, but they kept writing. You must do the same. Her words touched me deeply. She believed in my talent even when I had lost faith in myself. That day, I borrowed a few books and promised myself to start writing again. It felt like a small step, but it was a step nonetheless. Over the next few months, I spent every day in the library. Emily would always check on me, bringing me tea and giving me words of encouragement. Slowly, my passion reignited. I started writing short stories and submitting them to magazines. Rejections came, but Emily never let me feel discouraged. Every no brings you closer to a yes, she would say. Her belief in me kept me going, and soon I received my first acceptance letter. My story was published, and I couldn't believe it. I remember holding the letter in my hands, tears streaming down my face. I rushed to the library to tell Emily. "You did it," she exclaimed, hugging me tightly. "I always knew you could." That moment changed everything. I continued writing, and with Emily's constant support, my work gained recognition. Over the years, I published several books, and my name became known in the literary world. But through all my success, I never forgot the kind librarian who believed in me when no one else did. Years passed, and one day I heard that the town library was struggling financially. It was at risk of closing down. My heart ached at the thought of losing the place that had given me hope. I knew I had to do something. I decided to use my earnings to build a new library in Emily's honor. I wanted to create a space where dreamers like me could find hope and inspiration. The idea grew in my mind, and soon I found myself making plans, talking to architects, and looking at potential locations. When I told Emily about my plan, tears filled her eyes. "Daniel, you don't have to do this," she said softly. "But I do," I replied. "You changed my life, Emily. Now it's my turn to give back." The construction of the new library began, and I made sure it had everything: comfortable reading corners, writing spaces, and a special section for aspiring writers. I named it Emily's Library of Dreams. I worked day and night to ensure that every detail was perfect. On the grand opening day, the entire town gathered. Emily stood beside me, holding my hand. "This is more than I could ever have imagined," she whispered. I smiled and said, "It's because of you, Emily. Your kindness and belief in me made this possible." As people walked through the doors, I saw young writers sitting down, inspired by the beautiful space. The library was filled with hope and dreams, just as Emily had filled my heart years ago. I saw people reading, children exploring new books, and students finding a quiet place to study. Emily continued to work at the library, and I visited often, sharing my experiences with young writers and encouraging them never to give up. I held writing workshops, spoke at events, and mentored aspiring authors who, like me, once felt lost. One day, a young girl approached me with a notebook in her hands. "Mr. Daniel, I want to be a writer like you. But what if I'm not good enough?" she asked nervously. I smiled and said, "I once felt the same way, but a kind librarian told me that every great writer starts with doubt. Keep writing and believe in yourself." Her eyes lit up with hope, and she promised to keep trying. The girl beamed with hope, and in that moment I realized the true power of Emily's kindness. Her belief in one person had started a chain reaction, touching many lives. It was incredible to see how a single act of kindness could change so much. Years later, Emily retired, but her legacy lived on in the library. I made sure she knew how much she had meant to me and so many others. She may have been a simple librarian, but to me, she was the reason I found success and happiness. And so, Emily's Library of Dreams continued to thrive, proving that love, kindness, and belief in others can truly change lives every time. I walked through its doors. I smiled, knowing that once a kind-hearted librarian helped a struggling writer find his way, and that their story would live on forever.